Dawn Brolin. I'm a certified public accountant, certified fraud examiner, and the author of the Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals. Today, I want to introduce you to Truly Financial. They're a digital bank, and you can visit them at trulyfinancial.com. They are part of the Team Brolin starting lineup, which is the best of breed roster for technology solutions and partners that I use in my own accounting practice, Powerful Accounting Inc. In fact, my entire ecosystem, or playing field, if you will, is called Truly Financial Field. Here's why. Banking, the right kind of banking, is essential to everything you or your clients need to do when it comes to money. Truly Financial is changing the banking game. For starters, they're a digital bank. No more going to the bank for me. Those days are over. I can do everything online, and so can your clients. Partnering with Truly Financial helps you offer clients and their customers frictionless, collaborative banking solutions anywhere in the world. Truly Financial provides accessible, all in one banking that gives small businesses superpowers that were previously only available to larger businesses. When you or your clients open a Truly Financial account, you get multi country corporate Visa cards, local and international bank accounts, and the ability to send or receive payments seamlessly. I use Truly Financial to help the business owners I work with grow without getting slowed down by high fees or big bank bureaucracy. Learn more about how Truly Financial is changing the game for accounting professionals and their clients. Be sure to check out their partner program for accounting professionals too at trulyfinancial.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you know anything about writing articles or information about accounting, Scott's your guy. That's what you do, Scott. You write and you do amazing things. So, hey everybody, welcome to the DM Disruption. I'm here today, really excited about our guest today, Scott Cytron. He is an amazing writer. He puts the junky words that I throw to him, and he makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. And so I love working with Scott. I've been working with him for a long time. If you know, he writes, all of the Intuit articles, but he does so much more than that. And we're going to get into that today. So Scott, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I thought about this when I saw you on the schedule, and I said, we don't know anything about Scott. He's like in the background all the time doing writing and stuff like that. It's just your articles and your information is so phenomenal, but we don't know about Scott himself. And so I was like, we're going to get to know Scott on this episode of the podcast today, because I think that like it's so much more cool to read an article when you learn a little bit about the guy who's writing them, right? So Scott, we're going to talk about your history in the marketing world, where you came from, where you were motivated in a certain way to get yourself to go out and start your own business and for writing. So tell us who you are, what do, what's going on? You got a fractured foot. What else is happening?
Yeah, I have a fractured foot. Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Not. Yeah, and I'm usually used to, being really active, like exercising and not running, but like doing swimming and walking and all that. And it's been a journey, but I got out of the boot this morning, so life is good. Finally out of the boot. So no,
You can itch. Well, the boot you could take off to itch, but
yeah, yeah. At least
yeah.
I didn't have a cast, that's for sure. No, it's been an interesting career. If you had said to me years and years ago when I started my career that I was going to be doing this, I would have absolutely laughed in your face because I was like, "What is that? I don't even know what the heck that is." I went to journalism school. I actually have a journalism degree from the University of Missouri, which is still the number one top school in the nation for journalism. And
There
yeah,
we go.
it matters. And football sucks, though. The basketball's doing okay, but football is not great. Uh, I, yeah, but I knew I always wanted to write. I was a very good writer in high school. I loved writing. Remember the old blue books? I don't know if the students still write in blue books or not. They probably type it online now, like for.
But are they blue or are they the black with the white?
They're we call
Do you know
them
what I mean?
blue
Like they look
books.
like cows.
I could, if I took a class and the professor said, "I need you to write fill up your blue book about this topic," I could actually sit down there and write extemporaneously for hours about that topic, which was, I thought, a real gift that I had. I didn't know anything about anything else, I knew how to write. So I pursued journalism and graduated with a degree in a bachelor of journalism with a specialty in magazine. And I was going to be a magazine editor when I graduated.
Okay.
And then I decided I wanted to eat. So, because eating is a good thing, right? So I went,
That's hilarious.
I actually went into PR and kind of stumbled into it. I mean, they had one PR class at Missouri, and it was like this joke class. Like you took it if you couldn't make it in anything else. This was way back. And now, of course, it's a very respected thing. But back then, I had this, my mother referred to it as my interview suit. I had this blue pinstripe suit that was on and off of my body about 3 times a day. And of course, I could never gang the interviews. They were like back to back. They were always like early morning, get home, take the suit off, put it back on, go back out. I was getting lots of interviews, but no bites because the job market, I'm telling you, it was the early 80s. The job market was pretty tight. All over was tight and couldn't find a job. And so I was active in a communicators organization at the time, which is still around. It's an international group, and I went to a couple meetings and met this man. He would work for United Way. And he said to me, "Why don't you come see me at United Way?" Their office was downtown. He said, "Are you interested in doing some volunteer work?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I've got nothing else going on." He said, "This could lead to something if you came and like showed your face, got to know some people, in other words, network." And when I didn't, you're not taught in college to network. I mean, nobody says, this is what you need to do to find a job. And sure enough, I went down and volunteered my time writing articles for some of the agencies that belong to United Way. And my mother and father thought I was absolutely nuts. I mean, they were like, "Why are you spending your time volunteering when you should be out interviewing?" I was like, "Well, this is what I'm doing, so shut up. This is what I've got going on." And
Yep.
sure enough, it led to my first job, which was with the American Red Cross. The fellow I worked with at United Way knew there was an opening, and he said, "Go interview. Here's the name and the number of the person you need to call." Got the job, and I was there about a year and thought, well, okay, this is interesting. I was making $12,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Wait a minute now. It turned out after taxes to be $765 a month. That was 300 and whatever it was, $332 a check. And I would sit there all the time going, okay, this is how much I have coming in. These are my bills. Do I really have enough to pay my bills? And yeah, I mean, it was like joke pay, but it was a job and I was glad to have it. And that led to some other things. So basically, I stayed in PR. I stayed in nonprofit PR and went from there. Actually, I went from there to an agency that recruited me. A fellow I knew had a PR agency. He said, "Why don't you come work with us?" Was there about a year and a half. Decided, okay, the PR world is, I guess it's for me. I'm going to stick with this, but I really wanted to do content. Really wanted to do more content. I was doing a lot of press releases. I was doing a lot of media contact, but I really enjoyed writing. So I was kind of the writer in the agency. It was a small agency at the time. Now it's still around and much larger. But I actually went back in a nonprofit, which was kind of unheard of. I went back and worked for Big Brothers and Sisters and learned about, because I was in charge of fundraising and really wanted to learn how to raise money in a nonprofit. And eventually that led actually to a position at United Way. And from there, I was recruited from a woman who used to work there to the Texas Society of CPAs. So that's how, when people say, "What's your accounting background?" Well, I worked there for 9 years, and I was head of all the internal communications, the member communications, membership programs, and learned just a heck of a lot about a lot of stuff and met some really great people. I liaised, like I was head of the volunteer groups for the MAP, which was, management of accounting practice. So
Yeah.
they were all the public practitioners. I still actually keep in touch with a few of those people.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was there for about 9 years, and then I was the one that thought I'd never be laid off. I was like, my job is solid. Hey, look at me. I'm tougher than this. Got laid off. Got laid off because I was one of the higher salaries, and they said, we love you, but we don't want you anymore. and I cried.
Yeah.
I cried for a couple weeks. It was right when Rosie O'Donnell's show was on in the afternoon, like when she was starting her show. So I got to see all the Rosie O'Donnell shows. But
Yes, you did. Yeah.
my son was 5 at the time, and
Oh,
like I had to do something to earn money, and they gave me a little bit of severance. They placed me with one of those agencies where they teach you how to find a job, rewrite your resume. I did all that, but
right.
what happened to me was, you talk about inspiration, about being motivated.
Yeah.
What happened was I was contacted by a couple of vendors that I worked with while I was at the CPA Society because I headed up the member affinity program, which was the program like the credit card program for the members, the banking, the mortgage programs, all the member benefits. I was contacted by this company that was the financial arm of MBNA America, which is now Bank of America. It morphed to Bank of America years ago. They were interested in getting into the AICPA to switch them from First USA to MBNA
Mm,
America.
okay.
And they knew that I knew the people involved, but trying to make this long story shorter, they brought me up to Boston once a week for 6 months, and they wanted me to teach the salespeople how nonprofits thought and operated, so they could sell more affinity cards. So it was kind of this sweet little gig that I started out with. I was like, well, if I can do this, maybe I can continue to do my own thing. And I got a call from another vendor I used to work with. I'm the one that set up the original website for the CPA Society. So I got called by that company, which was out in Seattle. And then one thing led to another. And I ended up really trying to make a go of it. I thought, well, that was in like November. And I thought if I could just be busy through the spring and just pay bills,
Yep.
I'll give this a go. And I had always wanted to start my own thing. I really did. I actually had a dream because I worked so much in nonprofit to actually do an agency, a PR agency that was only nonprofit clients. And I got some real positive feedback, but they said, you're going to have a certain number of clients to make that work because nonprofits couldn't pay as much as for profit clients. And
Right.
that's true. That's very,
Yeah.
very true. So I ended up going out on my own, and one thing led to another, and I networked. I let absolutely everybody I know. I told everybody I know what I wanted to do, what I was doing. That was during the age of dial-up. I know I'm dating myself, but dial-up computers. I typed out my letters on a typewriter. I mailed them every day to people. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do, and one thing led to another, and now 20, almost 26 years later, I've still got my own business.
And I love that because I think a lot of times people will ask, and you see it over on social media all the time in a lot of the various groups, and I'm in a lot of the accounting groups. And you watch them, they're like, how do I get clients? How do I, grow my practice? How do I do? And it's not any different than what you did, really. It's like, be loud and proud about what you do,
Yeah,
get a little more specific, right? You don't want to be just, oh, I'm an accountant. Well, you know what? Accountants are a lot like attorneys. There's very different types of accounting services that are provided. Attorneys, they're bankruptcy attorneys or they're family attorneys. Usually, family attorneys aren't doing bankruptcy at the same time. Usually, there's different partners that are doing really focused things. That's how you become the best. Like when you think about somebody who writes, somebody that is out there in publications that is doing amazing writing, Scott Citron's at the top of the list in the accounting field, period. Right. And so, and you did that work, Scott, all yourself, man. Right. And your motivation, I think a lot of our motivation, I mean, you got laid off. All right. At the end of the day, I'm not saying it's bad to be an employee. That's not what I'm saying. But you don't hold your own fate in your own hands when you work for someone else. And if
right.
you have the drive and the commitment, the passion, the focus to go out there and do it, what you're doing is exactly right. You're out there, you're networking, you're letting people know loud and proud, this is what I'm doing. And one thing leads to another. Oh, yeah, you know what? Oh, you need an article written? Oh, call Scott. I mean, he's your guy. And that's how people will start to grow their practice. And that's what you've done for your business is grow to that
I
point.
think that's absolutely the case. And, I get kind of perturbed. Well, I don't get perturbed. I get pissed off
Yeah.
when I hear from an accountant or a bookkeeper or anybody in the profession. oh, I just don't have enough work. I don't have enough business. Like, well, you're not trying hard enough. My God, look at the number of
Oh my God.
companies and businesses out there. When was the last time you networked with somebody? Oh, right now, well, COVID's going on. I can't possibly do that. Yeah, you can. I met a pro
Yeah.
advisor, I guess last year, who this was brilliant. She scheduled coffee talks, and it was a 15-minute thing. Yeah, schedule a coffee talk with me. And yeah, okay, we can't, there was a long time where we couldn't see each other in person, but you could still find ways to network and ways to get the word out about what you're doing. But I completely agree. When a person in PR, marketing, communications calls me or sends me a note and says, I need some referrals. I need to network with you. I understand you know some people. Can you help me out? Like, what area do you want to work in? Oh, I do everything. Well, no, that doesn't help me because I need to know what you either niche in. Like people know for me, I niche in accounting and finance. Now we have other clients outside of that. And I tried really hard over the years to diversify. I did a lot of healthcare. Like when I started, I did accounting and finance, and I actually did morphed into healthcare and did a lot of that. And then I did some B2C work. I did some work for Blockbuster and Pizza Hut, and some really great fun projects. But I always said like it was like The Godfather where I got pulled back in. And around the seventh or eighth year, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to stick with this, but with accounting and finance, but I still want to try to find gigs outside of that. And we do, we have some, but there's a group of us. It's interesting. There's like a handful of us across the nation that niche in this area, and we all know each other, and we actually exchange work,
Yes.
which
Absolutely.
is great. Like if Betty can't do something, she'll say, "Scott, can you pick this up?" Or whatever it is, or
Yeah.
we'll refer to each other, and that's what makes it really fun. So no, we trust each other enough to get the job done, but we're also
Right.
great to work with. We love what we do.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, you can do it for the rest of your life, basically. You should probably find. I always tell the kids, like, I work with, I teach at the local university. I'm not right now because of the book, and I've got too much going on, so I'm not doing it this semester. But it's like I try to tell the kids, like, listen, you're going to work for forever. Okay. So
Yeah.
I encourage you, number one, find something that you're good at, but you've got to enjoy it because it's a long road. There's going to be ups and downs and sideways and backwards and all this stuff. And you've got to be able to get up every single morning and know why you're doing it and remembering that you do love it. And, I want to switch a little bit of gears in that conversation about the industry right now. Now, you obviously you see it from a 30,000 foot view and sometimes at a 10,000 foot view. You can sometimes just have a broad conversation or write an article that's a little bit more general in nature, or you may jump into some more deeper scenarios. So, are you, as far as the practitioners out there, are you seeing what I'm seeing in this really tough 18 months, almost coming on 2 years now of really in the accounting industry specifically where people are just struggling. And I don't know about you, but I think sometimes it's the people who don't have systems and processes in place that are able to handle either volume or, like we were talking about, just being able to do that coffee time, coffee talk, and just being able to, like, you're going to have to bring yourself into this time frame of technology. I think is maybe what it is, right?
I think that's absolutely right. And yeah, and when you own your own business, you're your own help desk.
Yes.
You're your own IT support, your own help desk. Yeah, I think what's interesting about that kind of conversation about accountants and bookkeepers networking is most of the ones I know, you definitely excluded. You're not in this camp at all. They're afraid to ask for a referral. They're afraid to ask their clients for a referral. I had this one client who was a Sage provider. They did managed services through Sage, and they had a very successful business. And they were like, "Well, we don't seem to be getting any new business." I said to the owner, because I worked directly with the owner, I said, "When was the last time?" This is way before COVID. I said, "When was the last time you took a client to lunch?" "Oh, I don't know. I don't really do that." "Well, do you go to lunch every day?" Knowing that he did. "Well, yes." I said, "So why don't you take your best clients to lunch, make a rule that you don't talk about business, but you talk about not your business, but just business in general, how you can help each other out." "Oh, I don't have time for that."
Right.
"But you go to lunch every day." He goes, "I get your point," but he said, "I'm not going to go do that." I'm like, why are you so afraid to ask a client for referral? What are you afraid they'll say to you, you're being too forward? I said, they need referrals from you just like you need referrals from them. So
Exactly.
why don't you? You've got a chemical company you're representing, you're doing the books for. Chances are they know other people, maybe in similar industries that aren't competitive or whatever the case is.
Right.
Ask for help and help them.
Exactly. And I also some of the other things that I think of is, if I get a particular client that I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'm not really your fit, but I know somebody who is,
Yeah.
right? Or if someone that comes to me that is predominantly Spanish speaking, I know exactly who I'm referring them to. And that's because Mariette and Hector Garcia, those guys are all out there loud and proud about what they're doing from a bilingual perspective. You know what? That helps me because you know what? I just had a client this morning even emailed me. She's like, I'm in New Jersey. We had a call that she's actually a new client. She called me last week. We had a nice phone call. And this morning she emailed, she said, listen, I'm from New Jersey. I had an accountant from New York and I felt like I never could get in touch with him or I couldn't go to his office, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, I said, well, Jackie, here's the deal, kid. Listen, if you want somebody local, just say the word. I'm sure I can find you somebody in New Jersey that would love to be working with you, whatever. I said, but listen, at the end of the day, I've got Tracy in my office if you call our office, if she is working, which she, sometimes she goes on vacation, whatever, she's really kind of part time. If if she calls you, she doesn't answer that phone call. I promise you, within 24 hours, you will get a call back because that's just the way she rolls, right? And so, but I said to her, I said, hey, if you want someone from New Jersey, I'm happy to refer you. Like, I want what's best for the client because it's like happy wife, happy life. It's happy client, happy business. Like, I don't want upset clients. I don't want those people. So if I feel like, this isn't a fit for me, you know?
But at the same time, like I've had cases, like locally, I'll give you a good example. I worked with a financial management company here
Hmm.
for, we worked together 12 years. And the owner was a heck of a nice guy, the nicest guy you would ever want to meet. If you said, Bill, give me the shirt off your back, he would take it off and give it to you. I was at his wedding. I mean, that's
Oh,
what a great
wow.
relationship we have. I know. That's what a great relationship we have. His PR, I did his newsletter, articles, whatever. And, but he could not make a decision to save his life. He could not make a decision. He wouldn't work with anybody unless they had more than $2 million in assets. I mean, that was his, so
Right.
you could see like the
Wow.
level of practice. So, and he was very good at it, but he couldn't make a decision. And I finally, like around the fifth or sixth year, like this is not working. Well, tried to resign the account twice. He kept throwing more money at me, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll continue. And finally, the third time, I just said, Bill, you've got to go find this somewhere else. I said, I'm sorry, but why would you pay me? Like he was a happy client, but
Sure.
I wasn't happy working with him because I didn't feel like I was helping him. And I feel like
It's
in the accounting profession is kind of the same thing. Why would you continue working with a client that you don't think you're helping just to make the money? And to me,
I love that story.
it's the whole advisory services conversation that some accountants still cannot wrap their arms around. They cannot figure out like, oh, you know, uh, they can look at the tax return and figure out that they have stocks, they have other assets, they have, I don't know, you could look at the return. I don't know, I'm not a tax guy, but I know how to do that. And to have that conversation with your client, I don't know if they're afraid that the client will leave them because it's going to cost them more money. But, if I had a client that I knew had this issue, I would certainly bring it up. And that's where you make your clients happy. Like what we do in PR, we say we anticipate what you're going to need before you need it. That's the whole crux
Mm,
in a nutshell is we want to know what you need before you realize you need it. And that's where we have happy clients. And communications with clients is key. Like the worst thing I would want to happen at the end of the month is for them to get my invoice and say, what did he do for that? Well, no, that never
right.
happened because we're constantly in touch. We're constantly, doing stuff back and forth. They know exactly what's going on. So
Well, I love that conversation about, like you're saying, like, keeping a client, like you were saying, that just because you're making money from them and that's great. Sometimes it isn't the best fit. We had a client just here in the last few months. He had whatever issues he had, and we just, it was the last straw. We were making a lot of money. It was a great project. It was a fun project. Like we just got to the point where we're going to keep this guy. We're going to actually be able to intercept this audit. He's a criminal audit. We
Yeah.
had all the I's dotted, T's crossed. He had, his record keeping was terrible. His prior accountant just really did a major disservice. So we were going to go after the E&O for that. Like we had this whole plan, but he just became like, he was mean. And a girl on my staff was kind of mostly dealing with them. And, she called me at one point. She's pretty tough. And she was like, I just don't know if I can handle this anymore. And I said, then that's the end of it. We're done. And so I fired the client. I was like, I don't need to, I don't want to make money off of those people. And then on the other flip side, I have one of my best friends, really great, another couple that my husband and I have been friends with. We're the goddaughters of one of his godparents and one of his daughters. Just, we love him. Um, and so, but he owns his own security system business, and we would chase him and chase him and chase him for information. And it was like, just became painful. So finally, his kid, actually my goddaughter, graduated from college with an accounting degree. And I said, Kyle, your daughter is doing your accounting. She's doing all your sales tax returns. She's going to figure out how to do your tax return because we're done. Like it wasn't even, it was about just, this isn't worth it. And we're friends and I will love to help my friends, but not at my, at my cost, if you will, of having to chase him constantly. And at that point, where's the value anyway? There isn't any. Um,
Uh, the one thing I dread is firing a client, and I've had to do it. Luckily, I've never been fired by a client, but I've had to fire a client. And I mean, the financial planner is one example, but there have been other examples. And at this point, if I'm not having fun, or if Brian isn't having fun working on this, my son works with me, as you know. If we're not
absolutely.
having fun
Yeah,
doing
I know,
something,
but it's sweetheart.
I'd rather go flip burgers at the Burger King. Well, hopefully not there, but you know what I mean.
I do.
I'd rather go do something else. Yeah, because life is too short. And, when a client gets ornery with me or starts questioning my integrity, we could have a conversation about absolutely, I've got a very thick skin, but, at the end of the day, is this really worth it? And it's a tough thing because, I mean, when I first started my business, it was absolutely all about the money. I had to make money. I mean, let's just face it, I had to do it. And then on the seventh, eighth, ninth year, I was like, okay, it's less about the money and more about the quality of the work. Unfortunately, I'm not
Absolutely.
doing there.
100%.
Yeah, it's now all
Right.
about the quality of the work, and I feel like the pay is going to be there, the money's going to be there, hopefully, it will last. I've been very fortunate. People have been incredibly kind to me over the years and generous, and I know we work hard for what we do, but at the same time, I never think that something's an absolute. I absolutely am grateful for everything we get. But sometimes you
Yeah.
have to fire a client, and that's not easy. I always feel like, oh my God, this whole door is going to shut and not open. And the moment you
Yeah.
do it, as a business owner, like this weight comes off of you and a window
Hmm.
opens and something else happens. It always works like that. I don't know why that, I don't know if that's fate. I don't know what it is, but it's this weird thing.
Well, and I think one of the things that I want to, well, this is going to be the kind of the last week. Well, we usually go 25 minutes or so. But I want to finish with this part because, you submitted, we always have people submit to us some information so that I don't, ask you questions that make no sense to you. But I think the most impressive thing that I read about kind of our written conversation about what you do, why you do it, what you're motivated for, and what makes you happy. And the number one word that just pulls right out is honesty. And I think at the end of the day, if you can be honest with yourself and be able to say, and there's situations where I see practitioners work and it's garbage. I've seen it. I'm like, how is this client paying $65,000 in self employment tax? Why are they not an S Corp? Like, I look at this stuff and I'm like, I wonder because I don't know, how do you look in the mirror or send an invoice to a client and take their money when you did such bad work? Now, I will say for myself, even if I make mistakes or I drop the ball on something, it will not cost the client anything because that's my integrity, my ethics, and my honesty that I know I jacked it up. It's my fault. And so I don't feel comfortable and I can't sleep at night if I know that been dishonest, right? And so I know honesty for you is one of your biggest things. And I agree with you. When you can't look yourself in the mirror, or you know what's worse is if you can and you're being dishonest, that's even worse. But
Yeah.
tell me about that honesty thing, because that really spoke to me.
Well, I just feel like you have to be genuine. I mean, you can't. People are going to play games. They're going to continue to play games until the world is over, which hopefully isn't anytime soon. But you have to have that integrity and honesty, and I think along with that comes trust. And I will tell you, I ask a client two things. I ask them if they'd rather be rich or famous, because whenever I have a new client, I say, well, would you rather be rich or famous? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? I said, okay, if you want to be rich, it's all about PR is all about getting your company's name in the paper. If you want to be famous, it's about getting your name in the paper or the media, whatever it is. But that's always a good
Yeah.
question. The second is, just you want to, at the end of the day, you want to absolutely be honest with what you're doing. I have done crisis communications in my time, and which is basically if a client was in peril for some reason, let's say they had somebody on their staff that embezzled money, or somebody went to jail, or there was really a big problem like that. I've done that kind of work. I now outsource that. Like if I have a client that has that, because there are people who do it way better than me. But I always say, at the end of the day, my best day. I always say, what is your best day like? What makes you the happiest? What is your best day? My best day is when a client will call me up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a client, will call me up and say, I've got a problem. Can you help me fix it? Because to me, that says you totally believe in my integrity. Now, you may not always take my advice, which is your deal,
Right.
and
Hmm.
I'll never tell somebody their baby's ugly outright. I'll probably sandwich that in something. But I always have fun with clients by saying, if you feel like you're going down a rabbit hole with something, I'll let you know, because why would you want to hear me say, oh, everything's great? I want to be a yes man. What good does that do anybody? We've had several recently, like with COVID going on, we've had a couple of instances, and I'll give them my opinion about what I feel like they should be doing, and whether they choose to follow it or not is their deal. I can't control that narrative. But I know for myself, yeah, I can look in the mirror every day and say, I really did the best I could.
Yeah. And I think that that's an amazing message. And I guess that would, for me, that is what, when I read the information that you had sent over, and I'm just like, every bit of what it sounded like in what you wrote and what you sent over was definitely coming from your heart, and you could read the honesty. You know what I'm saying? And I think this episode is about honesty and integrity. And if you can be honest with yourself and you have integrity, things will always work out for you because you are being honest. And like you said, is it fate? What is it when you close that door and then another one, probably four open in some cases, right? And I think that comes down to at the end of the day, that ability to have that honesty, integrity. You're trustworthy. People are comfortable around you because you're not sugarcoating things. You're telling them, and like you said, let them take the information in and do what they wish with it. But you
Right.
always know you're giving the people. I mean, as an accountant, people are always like, "Well, what do you think? Can't I? What if I did this? And can I do that?" And I'm like, "Okay, listen. I'm going to tell you what you should be doing, and then you're going to go ahead and do it or you won't do it. Oh, should I go and buy this truck at year end because I just want to reduce my expenses? I think that's stupid. I think that would, do you really need like, do you need it? Like, I'm always very open with them. I'm not gonna yes sir them and be like, oh
Right.
yeah, that'd be awesome, go get yourself a truck. Like, and you're on the phone and you're like, I just got to tell you, I just don't think that's the right answer. It would be very easy to go, oh yeah, go and get it, no problem, we'll just make sure you send me the paperwork so I can get it into your books.
I love that.
Like, that's too easy,
I love that.
right? And it's like, I gotta have that conversation with them.
Don't you wish that they would teach this at school? Don't you wish they would teach this kind of thing like from an early age, even like preschool? And I don't know if they do. I mean, it's been years since my son was in school, but I just don't know if that's something that's being taught. I'm afraid it's probably not.
I mean, I think like a course on decision making,
Yeah.
right, like, okay, we're giving you information and you read and then you interpret the information and then you use it or lose it. And
Right.
teaching them how to work through that would be really awesome. Maybe we can get, they're doing education reform. Maybe we can slip that in somehow
I'll get it on the agenda. How's that?
and on the agenda. Well, Scott Citron, I'm being as genuine as I'm always very honest and open, and I wouldn't say these boastful things about people if I didn't believe them. But I've really appreciated you. You've helped me in my career tremendously, just through the work we've done with Intuit, of course, with writing and different things that we've been doing. And I just want to thank you from my side of the industry, from being the accounting side. You're out there giving us the information that we need to make those good decisions. And I don't know if anyone thanks you for that. A check isn't thanks enough for you, but I just personally have appreciated what you've done for me. So I want to thank you for that.
That's really, really
You've been,
kind. I that means more to me than I can tell you. Thank you.
oh, Scott. I mean, we really go way back, man. We really do.
You do.
Um, and I want to have you on again. I'd love to talk more.
Will
The
do.
DM disruption is about just where I'm trying to disrupt the industry in a positive way, right? So helping people to take, like you're saying, take the information on what you should and shouldn't be doing as a practitioner and interpreting it, but
Mhm.
not just sitting there and thinking about it, but doing something about it. We want people to do things, right? We got Scaling New Heights coming up. Don't just go to a conference or watch a webinar to just be present. Just be there as a human. Be there with purpose. And then take whatever you learn, even if it's just one thing, and make a change in your day and your life. And I promise you, your practice will change. And that's what we're trying to do. So, Scott, you've been awesome,
Totally
man.
agree.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you very
And
much.
I'll be looking for you if I see you at Scaling. If you're out there, I'll know you'll be the slowest guy walking, but I'll be able to find you, I'm sure.
Thank you. I
So
will.
you take care and say hi to your son for me because I do remember meeting him. I think it was at a QuickBooks Connect event. We sat together up towards the front, I think, but I
Oh,
do
that'd be
remember
great.
him.
Yeah.
And I wish you the best. And I know we'll be talking again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening to DM Disruption. Dawn Brolin here with my man Scott Citron. Love him. This episode is sponsored by ADP, my favorite payroll processing company. You know why? Because I don't like to process payroll. So amen for ADP. Just have to say that. Scott, again, thank you so much. You're wonderful, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye bye, everybody.